Starting. Receiving. I just
I
got
can
the
tell
mess.
I'm really tired. When I'm really tired, I'm cold. I am freezing.
Yeah,
So
I'm
full 45, I'm totally fine with that.
yeah, we will keep this short. Come on, we got good stream health. Just waiting for the video to kick in. There we go.
It says it's been going for 57 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, there we are.
Just waiting for it to catch back up. Alrighty, let's start the video or start this show in three, two, one. Welcome everybody to Geekvice episode 153, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph, that man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
So how are you doing this week after a stuffing and gorging ourselves for a Thanksgiving holiday? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's tough coming back from a 4-day weekend because you hold your own hours, and then when you have to go back to work and you have to do work hours, your body doesn't say, "Oh, well, tomorrow's work. I'll fall asleep at 10 o'clock." It doesn't do that.
Yeah, no. No, well, and it really doesn't do that. Where last night, two reasons why we didn't record on a Sunday night was one, I was going to go see, or I went and saw Doctor Strange today, and we're going to discuss that later on. And two, the Chiefs played last night, and so I had to stay up to the very last part of the Chiefs game, and that didn't get over until 11:30. So
Yeah,
I was up until probably 1, just like amped up from that game because that was one hell of a game.
it was a hell of a game. I watched it too, and I bet I didn't fall asleep till after 2 in the morning. It was a rough day.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. So, in that sense, we'll try to keep this one short so that we can both get some sleep. So, we have to turn around and go to work tomorrow. So, first of all, let's start off with a big shout out to the rest of the podcast arcade. You see the little, if you're watching us on YouTube, you could see our little podcast arcade logo. Um, these guys raised some big money. I believe it was over $500 that they raised for
Yep,
to help out a charity up there in Omaha. I believe it's called Sienna House.
that sounds right.
They did a 24-hour podcast on Black Friday. They ran all day. Um, I tried to. I didn't quite get all the notifications when they were going live, so I wasn't able to share them as much as I wanted to. But if you were checking out the Podcast Arcade's Facebook page, or if you had liked that page, then you should be getting notifications on that as well. So I hope you guys were able to check that out. They are rebroadcasting all of that stuff on their particular podcasts, so each one is going to have a little bit of time on there. And congrats to those guys for making it 24 hours and for raising all that money for a good
Heck
cause.
yeah. And it came in handy too because the first night staying at my folks' house, I could not sleep. So finally, about 2:30 in the morning, I went, "Hey, the podcast is going on." So I pulled up my phone and watched it for about an hour and a half. And
And fell
to,
asleep.
to their credit, it didn't make me sleepy, even though it was, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, it was very good stuff. I'm very proud of those guys, and they raised money for a good charity. And I hope next time the podcast arcade does something like that, I am not already spoken for and can join in.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be good to be able to help them out with that and to participate in something for a good cause. I like it. I like it. So, you know, Kip, you spent some time out in the middle of nowhere, but you still found this hidden gem on Amazon Prime. What do we got here?
Well, I did spend my time out in the middle of nowhere, but like anything, all good things must come to an end. So we came home, and then last night, looking for something to watch, we pulled up Amazon Prime and looked around. And they always have what they call their pilot season, where they unleash a bunch of shows that they did a pilot for, and then you watch them, and then you rate them, and ones that get high enough ratings, they decide to pull the trigger on. Well, the one we decided to watch last night was called Jean-Claude Van Johnson. And it's like, well, I kind of liked the way Jean-Claude Van Damme played the villain in the Expendables movie, kind of tongue-in-cheek. So I thought, let's watch this. It could be pretty funny. And thankfully it was. It was really good. And basically he plays himself. Jean-Claude Van Damme, washed up actor. Well, I won't say washed up, but aging actor who's, retired. One of the funny lines in the show was he's at this restaurant. The restaurant concept is funny as hell, but that's another story. But he's sitting there, and the waiter recognizes him, and he's like, "Oh, it's you." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, what are you doing these days?" Like, "Well, I'm retired. Actually retired, not Nicolas Cage retired." He's like, "Oh, I thought you were Nicolas Cage." So it's got that kind of humor in it. So it pokes fun at himself. It pokes a lot of fun at Hollywood. But the twist to it, the Johnson part comes in when he calls his agent and is looking for work. And if he says his name is Johnson, it means he's actually looking for real life work as basically a contractor for like the CIA kind of thing. So he goes in and kills who needs to be killed, or gets information when he needs to get information. Basically a spy, maybe a wet work guy, whatever they need him to be.
Right.
So I like the premise. He's an action hero that's his front, and then he's like a CIA contractor as his actual job. I thought that was hilarious. So he comes out of retirement for both, and that first episode is great. It's entertaining. It's funny. Besides Jean-Claude Van Damme, you might recognize Felicia Rashad is his agent.
Okay.
You might remember her from The Wife in the Cosby Show.
Right.
So there are a few people in it that are like him.
Right.
Oh yeah, I remember you back from the '90s kind of a thing. But it's brilliantly done, and thankfully, looking on the internet today, it had been picked up, and they're going to do a full season. I did not find an article that gave me the date of release, but they did pick it up, and they are going to do a full season of Jean-Claude Van Johnson, so I'm pretty happy about that. So if you get a chance and you have Amazon Prime, go to their video section and watch Jean-Claude Van Johnson. It's worth it. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out. This just sounds funny. The
It's great.
and the first episode, I believe, is free for everyone, so anyone can actually go watch this very first episode that's out there,
Oh, really? Okay.
because it's part of their Prime. Um, because it's part of their pilot season, I think they use those as kind of a way to try to draw more people into getting Amazon Prime. So I believe you can watch at least just the first episode. Now there's only one episode out there right now, but or maybe it's just because that's how I'm logged in. But you can. It looks like you can get the first episode, so go check that out.
Yeah, and there's more than just that. There's the pilot episode of the new Tick, which I haven't watched yet, but definitely watch Jean-Claude Van Johnson. It's great. It really, especially if you like actors who can make fun of themselves and make fun of Hollywood itself. If you like that kind of thing, you're gonna love this TV show.
That's awesome.
Plus, there's some action, and it also some of the action is muted because he's old and they pointed it out. That he can't do the stuff that he used to be able to do. So it's pretty good.
That's funny. That's great. That is great. So, um, you spent all like so you were out in nowhere, Colorado. Well, I decided to go to Branson. Well, I didn't really decide to. I went to Branson,
It was
and
decided for you.
yeah, it was kind of decided for me. But we we went down there with my parents. My dad's got a timeshare, and or my I guess my mom and dad both have a timeshare down there, and so they were. We decided uh, to go down there and celebrate that. Well, when you're going to be in Thanksgiving, when you're having Thanksgiving in a place that is not your, like in a hotel room, basically, we're in a condo. Uh, there is some slight problems that you run into. One is entertaining kids because there's nothing open, so it's not like you can go a bunch of places on Thanksgiving Day. So we brought, in pure Geekvice fashion, we brought an entire tote of board games. We had everything from Legends of Dritz to Oregon Trail to Sorry to um, like I think we had chess in there. We had legendary. We had stacks and stacks of games.
Nice.
And now we had to make sure that there was some stuff for Conley, the youngest, and also for Reese, the older one. So, but both kids wanted to bring Legends of Dritz, and most of the time when we're going someplace like this, I don't usually bring that game because that game is a long setup time. It takes a while to play, and neither one of, well, at least Conley doesn't stay involved with it long enough to really enjoy it or to make it worthwhile for setting up. So I was hesitant to do it, but then it was brought up that, hey, we're going to have an entire day where they cannot go do anything. So why not? So we brought it. And of course that was the first game on Thanksgiving Day that both kids wanted to play. So I got it all set up. We're playing, we've been playing through the adventures that are in there. So it's not just a random encounter type thing. It's part of the adventure book that is included in there. And so I was setting this all up, and Conley sat down, picked out the guy he wanted to be, and then which he wanted to play as Dritz. Reese prefers to play as Wolfgar, the big barbarian. And so Conley sat down and wanted to play. Well, my dad decided he was going to come over and help Conley. Well, I kind of was already anticipating like just taking over his character and playing his two characters because that's usually what happens when Conley starts this game. Uh, but since my dad sat down, when Conley quickly got up and left because he was tired of playing after about 2 minutes, um, which he's four, so guys, that's not anything bad about the game. It's just he's four. He doesn't have an
Peaceful.
attention
Yeah.
span long enough, and he can't read the cards, so there's less interaction for him to do. It's really he just likes rolling the dice, and so my dad decided to play. Now my dad has never played Dungeons and Dragons in his life. The only time he has, well, really him or my mom or my sister or her boyfriend who was there, the only experience they had had with Dungeons and Dragons was the comedy of it from shows like Big Bang Theory. So while we're playing this game, no less than 6 times was I referred to as Sheldon or compared to as Sheldon, which, I took with I'd rather be Sheldon than Howard because I'm not the one making the funny voices. Um, but I was the one laying out the rules and explaining how to do things and helping people make the decisions they need to make. But that's what somebody who's played the game has to be able to do. I needed to try to explain to my dad exactly what he was trying to do without going in a full dissertation on, okay, this is how everything is done. I was trying to keep it as simple as possible to not overwhelm him. And it got me thinking afterwards, because even after we were done and we completed the adventure and we won, and it was it got a little close there a couple of times, but some natural 20s and some leveling up sure helped out. Um, we made it through the battle. We completed the game where it was all done. But it got me thinking afterwards, do shows like The Big Bang Theory and the comedy that is put into it, you've got The Big Bang Theory, you've got things like um, The Guild, um, you have the comedy that's involved in things like Critical Role and Critical Hit, which is another really good D&D podcast from Major Spoilers Network. Um, these things that kind of become and are made fun of. They're not taken as seriously. They kind of make fun of them. Is that helping the perception or is it hurting the perception of D&D?
You know, I love that question, and it got me to thinking about it. And I think it's helping. It to me, being able to make fun of it, joke around about it, makes it more accessible to people who've never played it. I think the idea or the perception, if you will, that it's for the super serious gamer who probably still lives in mom's basement and perhaps has that gamer mentality, that attitude. You know what I'm talking about? People who have
Mm-hmm.
been around gamers know exactly what I'm talking about. And it seems unapproachable. But I think shows like the Guild, who don't really deal with D&D, but more World of Warcraft, but I think people think of the two as the same.
Yeah.
And with Howard Wolowitz doing voices like Christopher Walken and things like that when he's playing the game, I think just helps I'm just going to call him the average person who does not game. I think it makes it more approachable to them. What do you think about that idea?
I, I think you're right. I think you're right, but at least we don't have the stigma. When D&D from back in the 80s, early 90s was the cult idea that this was satanistic and devil worshipping, and that's why D&D was bad. It was turning people away from religion.
You
And
mean it's not doing that? Oh, man.
we've been playing all wrong.
Dang
The
it. All those goat sacrifices for nothing? Gee.
but the we've moved past that point, and I think you're right. I think the comedy has helped it in the sense that it is considered lighthearted enough, um, and or at least approachable enough that you can make fun of it. But it still got me wondering, like, and maybe it's just the people, maybe it's my family, and maybe not everybody, but maybe my family just isn't as interested in it. Um, but the fact that my dad sat down and played, and he didn't get up and walk away, and he actually, at the end of it, we actually talked about it some, and you know, I don't think he disliked playing. He still didn't feel like when we were all said and done, he said he didn't feel like he had any idea what he was doing other than he knew he needed to attack. But that's what the game is centered around. Especially Legends of Dritz and less D&D. There's less role playing in Legends of Dritz than there is in Dungeons and Dragons per se.
That's true. It's like D&D light. It really
Yeah,
is.
but I thought that was kind of a, it's kind of a good place to step in and play at, because it it kind of worked. It gave him that opportunity to get in and see what it was, and I thought it was kind of fun. I enjoyed being able to introduce somebody else to this game that I enjoy so much, and um, the fact that he didn't run away scared was probably a good thing.
That is a good thing. And shows like The Big Bang Theory and actors like Vin Diesel who play, I think has helped the erase somewhat of the stigma.
Yeah,
Plus, the internet shows that are out there, the YouTube channels, like that group of voice actors that play was that Critical Role.
yeah,
I mean, that really brings D&D to a very high entertainment place where it's like, I think people who would watch that would think, I really want to play this game now.
right.
Unfortunately for those people, if you don't get in the right group, it's not as fun as those guys make it seem. It still is a lot of fun.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the more that it's out there, and I think Critical Role is kind of the the perfect niche for it, because those guys are comical, and you're right. It brings it to that entertainment level. It shows you that the game really is entertaining, and that's what any game is about. It should entertain you. It shouldn't be work to play any game, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or you know Call of Duty or Oregon Trail. Like, they shouldn't be work to play. They should be fun and entertaining.
Absolutely.
And I think it's kind of on the right track, and I think that's helping D&D. I think that's helping the exposure for it. And I think that's going to get more people involved in it. And I mean, the popularity of some of these things. Big Bang Theory is a big one, because that show is so popular, and it's just whether or not they just making fun of D&D still, I don't know. I would like for to be able to play and people not refer to me as a character from The Big Bang Theory while I'm playing. I mean, it's when are we going to get to that point? And I think that's the next step. That next step of, no, that's not something to laugh and make fun of. It is something that's just entertaining and fun, and it's no different than pulling out a deck of cards and playing Pinochle.
This is true. And it's still a niche game. I mean,
Yeah.
people who watch Big Bang Theory, chances are you, on some level, um, feel a part of that group,
Yeah.
whether it's the gamer side of you, the video gamer side, what have you. If you're watching a YouTube channel, you're looking for that.
Right.
The next step would be nice to see something a little more mainstream where it may not be the show based on it, but maybe a character plays. Maybe
Right.
there's an episode where you actually see him or her playing the game. Maybe Stranger Things was that first step
Mm-hmm.
into mainstream acceptance. But yeah, I love the question. I'm glad you asked it. I just think making fun of it on this kind of level, not making fun of it as in everybody's a loser who plays it, more of these people are having fun with it.
Right.
I think that just helps the game.
And it's a special group of quirky people who get to do fun things. I mean, Critical Role is another is quirky, just in the same sense of those guys have a million different voices, and they have a voice for each one. I mean, Matt Mercer playing the GM for that game. Holy cow, he's got a different voice for every character, every NPC they run across, and it's hilarious to watch the the players put him in a position to have to come up with a new character, a new NPC on the spur of a moment and create a voice for it. It's incredible to watch and funny as hell to listen to. So, um, yeah, I'm hoping, I'm pushing for D&D to become more of a mainstream game, just for the simple fact of it would be nice to finally see this game that is, now been inducted into the toy Hall of Fame to or Hall of Fame or Toy Museum or something like that. It's been raised up to another level, and I think it would be cool to finally see that thing get its due. Um, Now, on to our main topic here, which is me going to the movie theater. But before we start with that, I gotta say, my wife got me the absolute best gift today. And I know this is probably backwards on the screen, but it says Tesla. You should go it alone. Try science. And then underneath it says Edison. Control C.
Brilliant.
I loved it. I loved it. I shared a picture of it on the Facebook page, so if you want to see what it looks like, it's awesome. She said she got it from Woot.com. Great T-shirts there, some very comical stuff. This is my new favorite T-shirt, and I wish I could wear it to work because I would like to laugh at the engineers who don't get the joke. So, um, anyway, today I took the day off because I am another year older, and my present to myself was to go see a movie in a movie theater. And I just happened to go by myself and went and watched Doctor Strange. And I have to say, first of all, if you're going to go see a movie, go see it in the middle of the day. I saw it at noon. Perfect time to go see a movie because the theater wasn't packed, and I didn't feel like I was crammed against anybody, and everyone in there was pretty respectful, other than the people who came in halfway through the movie. That was weird, but whatever. Now, the movie itself, I'm going to put a strict, there's probably going to be spoilers here. I will try not to spoil things, but there is a good chance I'm going to end up spoiling something in somewhere because I thought this movie was really good. So go see the movie, and if you don't want to be spoiled, you should probably push pause and come and check this back out afterwards, just in case we blow
Yeah, no
something.
matter
But
what you're doing, hit pause, go to the movie theater, tell your boss I said it was okay.
yeah, exactly. Go at noon. Just go over your lunch break. It's only a 2-hour movie. It's okay. Just take a long lunch. The so this movie, first of all, I had been talking about this movie when they first announced that it was going to be made. That this movie, if they wanted to make it right, they wanted to follow the animated version of it that was on Netflix. It was more of a darker take on it, a little bit more serious tone to it, especially the idea of being of Doctor Strange being an arrogant asshole and in losing everything with the injury he faces. Having his hands basically destroyed and he'll never be able to do surgery again. Uh, that's exactly what they did here, and that was perfect. I mean, they followed that to a T. Even so much so as Dormammu being the quote unquote big bad guy. There were some differences here and there, but I think part of that was editing. Part of that was I actually heard that a lot of the post editing that they did to this was to add more comedy to this because the initial version of this movie was too serious. It didn't have the lighthearted parts to it to kind of you build your suspense up and then you have a comic relief that allows that pressure to come back down. That this movie originally was just pressure on top of pressure, too much suspense and drama to it. But I thought the mixture of suspense and drama to comic relief was great. I thought the casting for the ancient one, Tilda Swine,
Swinton.
Swinton. That's right. Awesome. She was incredible, and some of the reveals that came from her character, I thought were spot on. I liked how they, um, I liked how, uh, I liked how they played with this idea of the multiverse and how that all fit together. How it was kind of connected, and how the mirror universe. I thought that was really cool too. Um, I thought this movie was really good. People need to go see it. They need to go check it out. It is really good, and this is the perfect way of a um, how you do an origin story without any connection to the uh, to the Marvel universe. I think I'm trying to think. Like the only things they threw in there was no cameos from other characters in the actual movie. There was in your post credit, but in the actual movie, I think the only cameo would have been Avengers Tower in a scenery shot, and the mention of the Avengers basically coming in and saving the world from physical attacks, and that the group that Stephen Strange joined was they protected from the mystical attacks, basically.
Yeah.
Uh, that was really it. You don't need any connection or any tie to any other movie. This didn't lead into any other movie. Now, the post credit scenes did. They connected this thing to the rest of the world, which was, I think, what those credit scenes should be there for. Um, I thought this was great. I really liked it. And the visuals are psychedelic and awesome. I mean, the way they did the dark dimension with the colors and everything like that, I thought that was great. Um, I also really liked the conflict and the way they built the new bad guy in Mordo. Uh, I had done a pretty good job of staying out of who was playing who and who the bad guy was going to be and all that stuff with this movie. And when they said Mordor, or Mordo, not Mordor, when they said Mordo in introducing that character, my brain flipped and started going, "Uh oh, I know we saw this other bad guy early on, but this guy is going to be a problem." And he wasn't a problem in this movie, but it led him to be. It created the conflict between Mordo and Strange, and it
Yes.
did it perfectly. Um, it's. I don't know what else to say. This movie was really good.
It was really good, and a little confession time. When the trailers first started coming out, I just wasn't all that excited about the movie. My wife, of course, was just champing at the bit to see this movie, and I'm like, yeah, it looks okay. I walked out of that movie going, holy cow, that was great.
Yeah.
So it shattered any expectation I had on it. It was funnier than I expected it to be. One of my favorite actors out there, I think he's still little known to Americans, but I really like him. Is Benedict Wong,
Yeah.
who played Wong. He's he did a little stint on the IT Crowd. He plays Genghis Khan in Marco Polo
Okay.
on Netflix. Guy's fabulous. The way the humor worked with him, I thought was brilliant, especially with Benedict Cumberbatch kind of kind of making fun of him just being a one named person,
Oh
one
yeah.
named person. And then, he kind of giving it back by listening to the iPod. I thought that's brilliant.
Well, and even at the end when he started laughing at the joke, and Strange just looks at him like, "That you're laughing at that? That was awful." Yeah,
Yeah.
and Benedict Wong is somebody that when you're watching, like when you watch it, you look at him and you go, "Oh, it's that guy. I've seen him in all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
but I don't know what." I mean, he is really good. I like him. He's been in all kinds of TV series. His IMDb page is gigantic and it's got a bunch of different stuff in it. Um, he is really good in this, and the way he kind of has. I compare um, his character. So a lot of comparisons to this movie have been Guardians of the Galaxy, and how Guardians of the Galaxy was completely separate and was almost like a, hey, we're going to test this out here, and if this fails, then we'll just write it off and not do anything with it. And it was a huge success. And this one
Right.
kind of fit in that same mold, where it was something where you felt like it was so different from everything else that they did that if it was a failure, they just sweep it under the rug and just move on, and it wouldn't hurt anything. And I think part of the comic relief and part of the things that just got you laughing in Guardians of the Galaxy was not only the tone of the movie was more comical, but the Drax character that was very literal, very, you know, black and white, this is the way it is. That type of character puts themselves in ways to create more comic relief and provide more lighthearted moments. And I think they did that same thing with Benedict Wong's character. Um, and in the comic books, he and I'm not a huge Doctor Strange comic book guy. I haven't read all of his stuff, but I've read a few of them, and I do like Doctor Strange. His stories are a little harder to tell. If a bad writer gets a hold of Doctor Strange, he will kill the series because he's not an A-list superhero, and it takes a complicated story to kind of tell what's going on. When you have the mystic arts and things like that in there, it's kind of hard to relay that without good writing. But Benedict Wong, I keep calling him Benedict Wong. Wong is kind of that same. He is that no nonsense. These are the rules. This is what we need to do. But I'm willing to negotiate them when I need to, which fits with Stephen Strange. It provides that counterbalance. Strange has always been the I know better than everybody else, and I'm just going to do it this way because I know what I'm doing. And that came off in this movie perfectly. Um, the way he handled the big bad guy and dealt with Dormammu at the end was awesome. I thought it was great and kind of showed the selflessness that Doctor Strange really, what he really has, and the importance that Doctor Strange holds on helping people, even though he had never really shown it until that point. Um, and I thought his conversation um, with Tilda, with the Ancient One, in their astral form was kind of the start of that, and so I thought it fed perfectly into the battle with Dormammu and how they handled that. I also, most of the time, most of your movies, when you have a big floating head that is your bad guy, i.e., Galactus in the Fantastic Four movies, it fails. This worked. and I wish I had an answer. I wish I could like just tag something on this is why it works. I don't know. Maybe it's the rest of the movie worked. Maybe it was the way he was. There was no battle with the giant head. It was a astral figure. It was just a aberration that he was communicating with, and it was really just a mind trip to deal with them. It was
Yeah, physical weapons weren't going to defeat him
right,
because
right,
he's not a form as like you and I are.
right. And
Yeah.
so maybe that's why it worked. I don't know. But I thought it worked really well. Really good
I
movie.
yeah, I was pleasantly surprised how good it really was. Benedict Benedict Cumberbatch pulled off the total asshole who's humbled but
Yeah.
still retains that I'm better than anybody attitude, even though he's been completely humbled by somebody he just doesn't even completely understand yet. And because he held on to that, he was able to defeat the big bad. And I thought it was just perfectly played. It wasn't for. I didn't feel like there was a wasted scene. I don't feel like there was anything forced on us. It all seemed to be pretty organic. And like I said, it was funnier than I thought it was going to be. It got
Yeah.
dark where it needed to get dark. It got trippy where it needed to get trippy. Just, one of the best Marvel movies to date.
And I absolutely love how they worked the cape into this.
Yes.
Um, uh, just awesome. I mean, just awesome. What else is there to say?
We
Uh,
walked out of the movie, and my wife goes, "The Cape was my favorite character." That's
yeah,
how they did the Cape.
yeah, they did a great job with that. And I would also say that so we need to talk about the post-credit scenes, the
Okay.
mid-credit and post-credit scenes, and I want to bring this up. We're going to do the last credit, the ending credit, whatever it is, post-credit, the last one first, because that one dealt with Strange and dealt with the movie itself, and that was the character that was played by Benjamin Bratt. I thought was I thought it was just going to be a throwaway character. I I thought that what they were going to do was just going to give him he was going to be the character that pushed Strange in the direction he needed to go to in order to become Sorcerer Supreme. I did not see them coming back and having him be the tying factor between the first movie and the second movie that they haven't even started making yet. I thought that was great. I thought that was really well done, and it gave Mordo the fuel. Well, he got the fuel from Strange, and he had the ability to go, or the I don't know, the method to get him to move on from being part of the good guys to now being a a bad guy trying to do a good thing. He's what he's doing in his mind is not evil. He's not evil in the sense of, Doctor Doom's just evil. He's just a bad guy. Mordo, they've played him now as he isn't necessarily he's the best example that I can give is if you watch Legends of Tomorrow and the way they did with Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage is trying to take over the world, but he's trying to almost take over the world because he knows he can do it better than everybody else. He's trying to do something. He's trying to save everybody from themselves. Same thing they did with Ultron. Ultron was the same thing. Ultron was realized that humans are what are killing each other. It's not anything else, so we need to save humans from themselves. Mordo is kind of that same idea. He's trying to save the sorcerers and the Sorcerer Supreme idea and what that was built to be, and now he's going to do it by killing off the character that pushed Strange in the direction that he was going. That gave Stephen Strange the the knowledge he needed to be able to move forward. I thought that was great. I thought that was awesome, and I loved that scene. That was probably my favorite. That's been my favorite post-credit scene, second only to the very first Iron Man movie when you didn't have any idea that Nick Fury was actually going to be there and he showed up.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's better than this scene. This scene was perfect and it made me want to sit back down and watch the second movie, which hasn't even been filmed yet.
Yeah. And I can never pronounce the guy's name who played Mordo. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Sure.
Why not?
That's why I just call him Mordo.
Yeah. He's always fantastic. I've liked him in everything I've seen him in, from Love Actually to um, the Firefly movie,
Serenity.
Serenity. Thank you. He's always good. That post credit deal was like, I love it. Here's a bad guy, doesn't know he's a bad guy. It's just going to be phenomenal. You know,
Yeah.
you go, well, I'm ready for, like you said, I'm ready for the next movie. Just go ahead and roll it. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, we can't. We have to wait.
Yeah, which is kind of a bummer. Now, the but it does look like we might get to see some Stephen Strange stuff before the next Stephen Strange, before the next Doctor Strange movie, and that could come in the form of maybe he shows up in Ragnarok in the next Thor movie.
Sure the hell looks like it, doesn't it?
Sure does. The mid-credit scene dealt with uh, Stephen Strange sitting down with Thor, and I thought it was great that they had tea. And he's like, "Nah, I don't really like tea." And then the teacup turns into a mug with ale in it. I'm like, "That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that."
Well,
And
Dr. Stephen Strange is credited in the Ragnarok movie, so there you go.
so he will be there. Um, and I thought it was I think that it's going to. I, I just thought that credit was really good. That was a good way to connect him into that movie. It was able to, and again, because none of that was in the actual movie itself and was in a post-credit scene, it allowed the the movie not to lose anything.
Yeah.
There wasn't something that you go, oh, well, this if this movie would have failed, then this whole other thing wouldn't work. This movie stands all by itself, and I think that is what makes the Marvel movies so good, is that they are connected by little tiny threads that they have connected all these movies with, but they stand alone. The series, each individual character's movies stand alone, even if they're going to make cameos in other movies. I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, me too. They Marvel just seems to get it right. Even with post-credit trailers, you're just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
They just seem to just nail everything perfectly. And yeah, after that, after that one played, nobody got up. It's like, oh, good, there's another one. But after that one, I was pretty satisfied. Even if the second one, when it came up, I'd have been like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's. I'm liking this. We get to see him again in a not too distant future. But then when they built Mordor up more in the second post credit scene, it's like, yeah, now we're talking. Now we're getting somewhere. And you get excited about Marvel. I do anyway. Marvel movies in the first place, but then when they give you stuff like that, you're like, heck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really good, and the look on Thor's face when he basically chugs the stein of ale, and then he sets it back down, and he just looks at it, and it just starts filling itself back up. I'm like, that was awesome too. I mean, just the little things like that just make you go, oh, that was good. Nice.
Yeah,
I see what you did there. Well played. So,
absolutely.
very good movie. Go check this movie out if you haven't already. Um, it's just that good. It's that good, and the visual effects that they do there with warping reality and bending things in and up on top of itself, I thought was very, very well done and made sense. The idea of the thing makes sense. They made magic work in the Marvel universe that has been strictly based on science up to this point.
Right.
And they did it perfectly without undermining anything else that's been going on. Now, what's going to be the very tricky part is to be able to use that magic. They set some rules in this movie that they're going to have to, anytime Stephen Strange shows up, they're going to have to go back to those rules. This idea that they keep the natural order and that there is a limit to what they can do is something that is going to be hard for them to. They're not going to be able to just throw Strange into any movie they want. They're going to have to put him in with very set parameters on what they're doing with him. Otherwise, he's going to become the MacGuffin that comes in to fix whatever problem they run into, and
Truth.
they're going to they could run into that problem where they just have the bad guys have to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, um, and that's gonna that can lead to a problem. But they set some rules in this movie. If they just follow those rules, and they're gonna have to bring them up with the idea, the same thing that I'm very much for could come back to bite Marvel in the ass if they don't do this carefully. Because these movies stand alone by themselves, anytime Strange shows up, when he shows up in Ragnarok, they need to make sure that they remember that the people who watch Ragnarok might not have seen Doctor Strange. And that there has to be enough put in there to kind of where he is, who he is, and how he, not necessarily how he came to be, but why he can do what he can do, and why he can't do. Maybe that's the bigger thing that they need to put in there. Why he can't do what everyone wants him to do, which is come in and just fix it.
That's a good point. Didn't think of it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he's the guy who can come in and do anything. I mean, he just rolled back time and saved an entire city.
Yeah.
Um, now, granted, nobody knows that he did that other than other sorcerers, but that it's still just it's out there and the audience knows it. So can't let him become the MacGuffin. So, all right, I think that just about does it for tonight. Any last words, Mr. Kip?
Um. Well, I finally bought Oregon Trail, the card game. It
Oh yeah,
was on sale at Target for $10, so I had to buy it. So, if somebody's looking for the game, go to Target, see if they still have supplies of that game.
yeah, yeah. I need to actually. That reminds me. I need to email our friends over at Pawns and Pints and see if they got their copy of it for their board game cafe. And if not,
Yeah, that's good for them to have.
might go pick one up for them. So, alrighty, guys. Well, thanks everybody for listening to Geekvice. This episode, you can check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. Also, check out Facebook page, facebook.com/geekvice. You can also go subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get notifications when we go live for the recordings. You can watch us live, usually on Sunday nights, but occasionally, like tonight, we'll move it to a Monday night. And you can also get notifications when videos of Geekvice Gaming go up, which is going to be, I'm going to start, try to put those up Thursday mornings is when they're going to go up. I was doing them Thursday nights, but since I'm playing Civilization 6 right now, and I play multiple hours at a time because I can't stop playing it. So I've got some episodes in the bag, so I can make sure that they're uploaded and available on Thursday mornings. So watch for those probably about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning on Thursday mornings is when I'll make sure they get up there. So that's our YouTube channel. The easiest way to get there, there's two ways to get there. One, through our Facebook page. Just click on the link on the left-hand side that's go to YouTube. And the other one is to go to tiny.cc/geekvice. You can also follow us on Twitter, that man over there, at Kip Killian. You can follow me at Geekvice. And you can always email us at geekvice@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts, concerns. Give us what you think about Doctor Strange. And thanks everybody for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next time.
See ya.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.